Have I shown up at the right spot? Hold your applause. You might want to hold it permanently. I don't do a lot of speaking. I have men that do that for me. I don't hear real well, and I've never heard myself. I have also had some good advice in my childhood, and that was, Tom, you're going to get a lot of opportunity in this lifetime to keep your mouth shut, and you should take advantage of every bit of it. So I have tried to avoid as much speaking as I possibly can, but I want to tell you this is a different situation. I have had the opportunity to peruse some of the innovations and inventions that you've been diligently applying yourself to, and quite frankly, I'm in awe, and I don't know what I can tell you. But I have been asked a great deal over the years that I have been an inventor about what was my greatest invention. What did I feel had made the best contribution to the world, mankind? And I have an answer for that. I don't want to keep you in suspense, but I'll tell you what it is. What I called it, not while I was developing it, but what I called it was an invention factory. And that invention factory was about 25 miles from here, and started out being a bankrupt subdivision. It wasn't a town, it wasn't a park, but it was called, anyone? Menlo Park. And Menlo Park became the fulfillment of a dream that I'd had most all of my life, at least since I was 9 or 10. And that was to one day have a place that all I did was to bring out ideas and to come up with ideas. And as my life progressed and I began to get more and more experience, because I didn't have a lot of schooling, I only went to school 3 months. But I began in a way that a lot of young men, teenagers in my day began, was behind one of these. I don't know if you can see that. This is a telegraph key. And this was able to introduce me to electricity and to communication. And as a teenager throughout the Midwest for about 5.5 years, I took press from the AP and from the military. The Civil War was on. Most of us that were interested in this new technology, which helped forward what the mail had with 2 weeks to get a letter, was now almost instantaneous. And guess what age range the people who were interested in that was? Teenagers. I think you probably find the same thing today, don't you? Why? Well, they still maintain their curiosity. You take a child somewhere between 12 and 16, if you don't get them at that time, their mind will be set in such a fixed, linear way from rote type teaching. I wasn't going to say this, but I overheard a few things here at the end of this last presentation, and I just am a man of many opinions, and I'll give you mine. That for a person to be innovative, they have to be, maybe not as much as myself, but what I would consider incurably curious. And if you investigate curiosity, imagination, some of these things, I think you'll find that They are at the heart of all real accomplishment and productivity in any line, regardless. Not just folks in inventing and innovating. Innovation, I suppose that there are a lot of definitions of that word, and approaches and perspectives upon it. But innovation is simply, to me, I've got to tell you, I keep things simple. I try to keep my feet pretty close to the ground, never getting too much, maybe 3 feet, and trying to stay somewhere below the Himalayas. Realistic, practical thinking is really what I've been about most of my life. That came from some pretty good parentage. My mother schooled me at home till I was 12 years old. She was the making of me. Heard the term leadership. My mother is the greatest leader that I think I've ever seen. She cast an impression over me that has lasted me my entire lifetime, and it's to her that I owe most of what I've accomplished. And probably the rest of it is I owe to my deafness, because it's helped me to think. Innovation, and what my invention factory was and became, was organized research. Most inventions that came out prior to Menlo, they came out through men who had been working along the lines of agriculture or a particular problem, and they solved it, but they didn't become inventors, drop everything, and I'm just going to invent the rest of my life. Young lady, could I have some water, please? I forgot to ask for that. I forget a lot of things. You say, I have a significant diminished capacity for coping with the ordinary demands of life. In other words, I just have a problem with everyday things. And that's why the teacher had such a problem with me, and I only lasted 3 months. I wasn't the greatest student. But what innovation is I will define by telling you that what I feel is I don't ever pick up anything that I don't think of how I might improve it. Is that simple enough? But I have developed over the years an ability to observe, to explore, and to see things that other people don't see. And I believe that you have to train yourself to do those things. And I have learned a great deal in my life by observation and by thinking. So my invention factory and organized research, which was a laboratory that I filled with every element that I could find, everything there wasn't anything that was out of bounds for what I was going to fill that laboratory with, because you never know when you're going to need it. You want to be an inventor? 2 things is what I think you need: a good imagination and a pile of junk. And a will to live a creative life and to not be getting into that rut of linear thinking and things and becoming, thank you, set in your ways. I've got a lot of criticism. I guess I did bring some water up here. My mind gets down a track, and I can do things and I never know that I'm doing them. My mind is always going to and fro. But I've learned how to take and focus my mental and physical energies at the problem at hand. And I believe that that's one of the things that a creative person has to do, because your mind is filled with ideas going in all types of directions. And you've got to learn how to do that, and I don't know if I ever have. I have to have at least 6 to 8 projects going at all times. So if things aren't going well in one, I drop it, go to another one. something may happen there that'll solve a problem that we were working on last year on that one over there that's filled with dust now. Phonograph, I put that one away for 10 years. Didn't touch it. We were working on something else. Little company that I had a little part in was called General Electric. You ever heard of that? Around the turn of the century, General Electric called what we did at Menlo research and development. That, my friends, I feel is my greatest contribution to you. And taking the step to say, I just want to invent. I don't want another job. I've had enough of those. And I had the privilege of having people put their faith in me, and I was able to improve things and make some money, such as the stock ticker. And on to the transmitter and the telephone. And all these things came from my knowledge of being a telegrapher. But my knowledge didn't come from just taking and sending press. It came from asking questions and taking some of those apparatus home with me and taking them apart and examining them, tinkering. Western Union, who I worked with mostly, that's what they called me, a tinkerer. What's that tinkerer's name? After they found out that Mr. Bell had a device that just might affect their business. Who was that? That Edison boy, yeah. And that's how I got that, and just shortly after we moved into Menlo Park. But I want to tell you, I want to take you back. And let's pretend that it's 1878. And you live in a little group of homes right around in this neighborhood, as a matter of fact. And one day I roll up with a horse-drawn truck, if you will, with Edison on the back of it, and a big light bulb. And I jump off that little wagon, and I run up to your doorstep, and I begin to tell you I have an incandescent lamp that I think you should buy. 1878. Would you buy it? Anyone? Who would buy it? Who would even think about it? Why? But do you know, if I were to ask you what, before you came in here and I just told you, what my greatest invention was, what most people would say, what do you think they would say my greatest invention was?
Light bulb.
The light bulb. Well, think about it. The reason you wouldn't buy that light bulb is the only power that you've got coming into your home isn't a long word like electricity. It only has 3 letters. Gas. Only a fool would buy that. One of the reasons that I don't think I give the light bulb credit, maybe because I didn't invent it. Does that shock anyone? I didn't invent the light bulb. In fact, why I'm telling you this story is to illustrate what real research and development is. It's thinking. It's thinking. And using something that's not very common, called common sense. I believe common sense, hard work, and stick-to-itiveness is the formula for success for anyone. But do you know, over 20 years prior to October of 1879, when we got that bulb to burn 13 and a half hours the first time, 20 people were working on that bulb that never gave a thought to the practicality of how it might help you and how it would get into your home. They were only interested in the discovery side, not the delivery side. And what I've seen with you and these products that are out here is that you understand there is a difference between bringing out an invention and putting it on the market. Do I hear an amen? 15 minutes they give Thomas Edison. To tell you about research and development. But I'm proud to be here. I'm not complaining. But I will tell you, there's always a way to do it better. Find it. You know, we don't know 1/1,000,000th of anything. The minute we become so self-confident and stuck on our own theories and think that we have seen it all, we have to always realize we don't know everything, regardless of what it is, the amount of success or the amount of failure. We have no idea. And I believe that's a position to always have, to always improve, knowing that you can only see so much. I'll leave you with this. Until a man can duplicate a blade of grass, nature can laugh at his so-called scientific knowledge. I'm delighted to be here today. I wish all of you well, the country well. I bid you well. Thank you.